Picture a busy coffee shop. At one table, an overachiever's fingers fly across a keyboard, optimizing a digital calendar. At another table, a person sits perfectly still, staring out the window. Modern culture encourages us to bet on the person in motion. We tend to associate activity with progress and write off the still observer as a failure. While the overachiever manages tasks, that motionless observer is often solving a problem that could upend an entire industry. This is the lazy, ambitious man, a person who holds massive goals but refuses to perform the ritual of being busy. This archetype short-circuits our logic. Their lack of visible effort threatens the standard belief that success requires constant, visible struggle. The psychologist Carl Jung suggested that our irritation with these people reveals something about ourselves. He viewed our judgment of others as a mirror for our own internal state. Jung called this the shadow. These are the parts of our psyche we choose to ignore, the traits we've been taught to fear or suppress. In a culture defined by the grind, our darkest collective shadow is the fear of being seen as unproductive. We've learned to equate stillness with worthlessness. This anxiety fuels the performance of productivity. We post our to-do lists and optimize our morning routines because we are terrified of what people would think of us if we simply stopped. The lazy, ambitious man operates without this guilt. He feels no pressure to look busy for the benefit of an audience. This indifference is what makes him dangerous. He exposes the frantic motion of modern life as a performance driven by fear. We are taught that breakthroughs require strict goals and forced intellectual effort. But forcing the mind often shatters the very creative process we're trying to spark. Jung identified the play instinct as the real engine of creativity. Paradigm-shifting ideas come from a place of genuine curiosity rather than mandatory labor. History confirms this. Albert Einstein famously developed the core of his theory of relativity while daydreaming, not while grinding through a task list. Nikola Tesla would visualize his inventions in full functional detail during his evening walks. Jung himself achieved his biggest psychological breakthroughs during long periods of what others called unproductive solitude. These thinkers relied on patient internal incubation. Today's culture mistakenly labels that same process as laziness. Jung used the term active imagination to describe this hidden work. During idle periods, the conscious brain takes a back seat, allowing the massive unconscious mind to connect data points the logical mind would never see. This process has its own internal rhythm. It cannot be scheduled, making it impossible to manage. This is why the lazy, ambitious man seems to have ideas pop into his head out of nowhere. The nowhere is actually weeks of deep, invisible processing. Because this work leaves no paper trail and produces no immediate status updates, it terrifies a world that demands constant, measurable output. Zooming out reveals how this idle mind fundamentally threatens the entire foundation of our traditional 9-to-5 economy. The modern workplace relies on predictable compliance. It functions because people trade their time and constant action for validation and a paycheck. The idle genius operates outside this cycle. He prioritizes deep processing over visible performance, asking why instead of blindly executing orders. He represents a dangerous possibility that one can hold massive ambition without the chronic performative anxiety the system usually demands. If success can be reached through patient incubation rather than frantic motion, then the exhaustion of the modern worker loses its justification. This realization suggests that the stress-induced burnout millions endure is a byproduct of a ritual, not a requirement for achievement. You may see yourself in this. Perhaps your energy arrives in waves, or your best ideas arrive only after long periods of inactivity that make you feel guilty. This internal friction signals a mind optimized for depth rather than the steady, shallow output of a factory line. Trusting this nature requires an end to the apologies. The challenge is learning to recognize the difference between anxious avoidance and the necessary rest your unconscious mind is asking for. Jungian psychology points towards active patience. You sharpen your skills and prepare your resources, then wait for the unconscious mind to finish its work. Meaningful work follows its own timeline, not the frantic pace of a startup. Jung himself did not publish his most significant work until his 60s. The idle, ambitious mind offers a map to a different kind of mastery. It shows that following an internal rhythm, rather than the frantic demands of the world, can lead to the very breakthroughs society claims to value.